Usually when I mention to people that I'm learning Swedish, they want to know how it is learning it, because usually they're not very familiar with it, and I'm not sure how widespread this belief actually is, a lot of people mention that they've heard it's a really difficult language. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. Hi, I'm Maiken, and this is where I talk about language. Welcome, and please don't forget to like and subscribe for more language content. I tutor English online, and so a lot of my videos are focused on acquiring English, but because I also learn languages as a hobby, I make videos about language learning in general, and just language stuff. So if you like that, stick around maybe. So is Swedish a difficult language to learn? Now obviously I can't answer this at all objectively, sorry folks. How difficult the language is depends on a lot of things for each individual person, and I suspect it mainly depends on what languages you're coming from, what languages you already know, what your first language was, etc. So, as an English-speaking American who's intermediate level in Italian and who has also experimented with Duolingo Danish, which is similar to Swedish, and is also not very far in the Swedish language learning process, I'm still a beginner, I would say it's not that hard. It's pretty good. Now, it's still hard because it's a language. Language learning is hard. Just because I don't think Swedish is super hard relative to other languages, for me personally, that doesn't mean you can just, pick it up like it's nothing. Alright, so why do I say it's not that difficult for someone like me with my kind of background? Well, the grammar is pretty intuitive for an English speaker. You've probably heard that. It's actually very intuitive, with exceptions. The grammar is not the same, it's just similar. But yeah, there's definitely kind of a familiarity there, one that I didn't really have with Italian because the grammar is just so different. So Swedish is a Northern Germanic language. English is a Western Germanic language. Yes, Western Germanic. Anyway, so they're linked in that way. Now, the Swedish alphabet is also pretty easy because they do have extra letters that English doesn't have, but even given that, it's pretty easy to just jump right into reading and writing Swedish. Again, especially compared to other languages like, Chinese. When I think of Swedish, the most difficult aspects I can think of aren't super specific to Swedish. Their challenge is more of language learning in general. For example, some ideas and sentence structures are approached in a very similar way to how they are in English. You can almost directly translate them, and they're easy to grasp for an English speaker. However, others are approached in a totally different, unintuitive way, so you can't assume how to express anything, and you just have to go through with an open mind and adapt to that language psychology, and you might just have to memorize certain phrases and things that don't make any sense to you, but it's just how it's expressed in Swedish. But that's just language, that's literally just language learning. That's not anything to do with Swedish. You're going to find that in any language you learn. And accent. Well, nailing an accent in any language as a foreigner is just going to be really hard, and I honestly doubt that Swedish is going to be exceptionally difficult. I imagine it's going to be just as super hard as it is in any other language. Now, of course, there are some challenges to Swedish that are specific to Swedish, and I'll talk about them a little bit now. One of them is pronunciation. It's hard. Swedish has many extra sounds that English doesn't have, and that first week of trying to differentiate them was really frustrating. I was brought some delicious, peanut cabbage, pasta-y something, so let's continue. But again, there are extra sounds you have to learn. It's frustrating at the beginning. It takes time. Some people might never be able to exactly reproduce the right ones, but it's not tonal. It's not like Chinese or Vietnamese. I'm sure that's so much harder. Also, I had an advantage because I was used to rolling my R's from Italian. Swedish actually has rolled R's, which is really cool. Right now, I'm I'm really trying to improve my listening comprehension, because that is actually really hard in Swedish. Just like English, they kind of compress a lot, contract a lot of words. You know, they speed up their sentences and push everything together and throw out some sounds strategically, etc. It sounds nice to listen to, but it's hard to comprehend, right? So I'm really trying to practice that right now. But there's something kind of cozy about it, honestly, because that's something that English has. So there's something kind of like, yo, we're friends kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's still painful, but it's kind of familiar and nice. The same goes for phrasal verbs. Swedish has a lot of phrasal verbs, just like English. And again, it's difficult because you're going to have to memorize a lot of them, and maybe someone will be talking and they'll use some phrasal verbs, and you're confused because you're not realizing it's a phrasal verb. You think they're two separate words that don't make sense together. That's hard, but again, English has so many of them that I'm aware of now that I tutor English, that there's just something kind of cozy. I don't know about cozy, but yeah, there's just something familiar about it, so it doesn't make me feel really uncomfortable. It's a concept that I'm pretty familiar with, so you just have to memorize and listen and just be aware, right? Finally, there isn't a ton of content in Swedish. It takes some digging to find it. So that is an obstacle of sorts for sure. You can find stuff, it just takes a little bit of time. If you've never heard Swedish before, or you don't really remember what it sounds like, I'm going to leave some links in the description so you can listen to some Swedish, because it's a really beautiful language. And I'll put in a song and just a link to some normal dialogue so you can hear both. If you by chance found this video because you're learning Swedish or you're interested in learning Swedish, I do want to let you know that I'm going to be putting together like a playlist or some kind of other resource list to help you find Swedish content, because like I just said, that took time for me, and so I just want to make it easier and speed up the process for anyone else, because being a beginner is hard, and part of the difficulty of being a beginner is finding your roads in the language, especially if it's a small language like Swedish. So keep an eye out for that. Alright, that's it for today. Please click like if you liked this. Please subscribe for more language videos, and leave a comment saying something nice if you want. That's it. Thank you. Bye. I make videos about language learning and also English in particular, as I am an English tutor. So if that's your target language, check those videos out. Cool.